In this video, I'm going to share with you the communication venues that you need in order to run a high-performing team. If we haven't met, my name is Mary Grace Gardner, and I'm a leadership coach who has worked with the executives at multi-billion-dollar companies, guiding them on how to build high-performing teams. Now, having these communication venues is super important in order to make sure that you as the leader are hearing updates as appropriate and also intervening when necessary. But oftentimes, these meetings that folks have can be such a big time suck where people are wondering, why are they in that meeting? And it just feels like a waste of time. And I should say, I'm a person who does not enjoy meaningless meetings. So if these meetings are not productive, they're not encouraging action, if it's unclear what the purpose is of a meeting, it's a big time waste for you as a leader, for the team, and they're expensive. And so what I like to do is make sure we streamline meeting structures as much as possible so that we get the right level of communication without sacrificing time. So the first key meeting that's really important for you to have running well are your quarterly check-ins, especially with your entire leadership team. Now, this is where specifically you should be really focusing on performance, looking at your goals with the team and understanding, is this the right strategy still, or do we need to make pivots based upon the past performance? Now, these conversations really should be structured around what's the problem you're trying to solve? What did we try to do? Are we moving towards the goal? And are we still on track? These quarterly sessions are really important for both the organizational goals or any extra projects that may have come up. So this is an opportunity to be able to reprioritize and make sure people have an opportunity to problem solve if necessary. Now, depending upon the speed of your company, quarterly might not be enough, and you might need to meet more quickly to be able to pivot on strategy. But for larger companies, quarterly is usually a good frequency to confirm whether or not you're on track or off track and make those larger pivots on your goals. The second key venue, key communication stream that's really important for you to be able to have nailed down is some way for the organization, for you and your team to be able to pull real-time updates on performance. So the first one that I mentioned on quarterly updates, that's kind of looking at the bigger picture, but you need to be able to pull at any moment's notice what's the current performance. So that might mean creating some sort of scorecard that's filled out on a regular basis by your team, being able to look at reports that are actually more real time. That's really important because if you wait for just the quarterly conversations, you might be too late. The problems might be compounding and you should have intervened earlier. Being able to have that information quickly and at a regular basis is really important for communication, to understand whether or not your team is performing as expected and whether or not you as a leader need to intervene. Many companies really struggle with this part because they don't put in the effort to create a good system around how do we get real-time information, and often default to saying, you know what, it's hard to pull that data. It's really hard to pull that report. I can't give that information. But as someone like me who has a background in Lean Six Sigma, if you are having difficulty measuring performance, it's really hard to tell whether or not you're on track or off track. And after a year goes by, you might end up putting a lot of effort into something that didn't move the needle in performance. So making sure there's a clear venue where you can pull that data and you can have conversations with your team on it, being able to have more of a real-time conversation. And that leads me to venue number 3. This communication channel is really important and probably one where you didn't expect to have this sort of rhythm necessary in order to run a high-performing team. And that is making sure you have a venue for problem solving. Now, at the beginning of the year, you set the goals. At the end of the year, you look back to see if you achieve them. But a lot of stuff happens in between where the strategies we set in place might not have gone as expected. Other unexpected things are thrown into the mix. And without an opportunity for your team and for you to be able to go through and answer, is this going the way that we thought it was going to be? What is it that we need to try differently? What is the set of skills we might need to bring that we didn't have before? Or is this still the right strategy? Being able to do that on a regular basis makes your team more and more agile, makes them better at solving problems, but also is necessary because things just never go exactly as we plan, especially for bigger teams where there's more intricacies with who gets involved and the number of people who need to work together. Being able to have these set venues where you're jointly solving problems together so that you can still reach that end goal is so, so critical. And oftentimes, companies are in firefighting mode because they're only solving these problems as they come up, and it feels like a game of whack-a-mole versus it being more of a strategic planned event where on a regular basis, now depending on the size of your company, that might be a weekly conversation or maybe even a daily conversation in Slack or whatever tool your team uses for communication. But setting that expectation with your group on where do problems go and how does your team get together to solve them is going to make performance so much faster. So being able to have these three venues, the quarterly check-ins, the real-time update, to be able to pull that information, and then problem-solving venues is so, so critical. And another place that would be also helpful for connection, which is not these big venues, but the smaller ones, are the one-on-ones with your team. Now, one-on-ones with your team is a great place to be able to find out about performance, what's working, what's not. But a lot of leaders use these one-on-ones in a way that is just a big time suck, and people walk away from that conversation feeling like they didn't quite get what they were hoping to get. And in the next video, what I'll do is I'll share with you how to make your one-on-ones with your team more effective so that you are getting the information you need and your direct report is getting what they need to be able to excel. I'll see you there.